So we're going to be covering a subject that's really sensitive. And after watching this episode, it was the thought of, is abuse ever funny? Can we watch something of someone being abused? Can we find the humor in that? Should we find the humor in that? Does that make us horrible people? Why do people do that? And what can we do about it if we've been through abuse and we've seen it on TV or someone else has? So it's a really heavy subject. So let's take a look today at the psychology of, is abuse ever funny?
You want to talk to Tech Night?
No, he's having a Federalist Society party tonight.
Maybe you should sit this out. You know, you've just been through so much with your dad.
I'm fine. Focusing on work is exactly what I need to do right now, okay? Just trust me.
The way that people deal with trauma can be multi-layered and very different from one person to another. Some people may need to process it, talk about it, think about it, be inside of that moment. For other people, the distraction may be actually good for them. And so in this case, working, keeping yourself busy, keeping your mind off of it, because the more that you process trauma, for some people, they actually feel more overloaded. And for other people, as they share it, they feel less loaded. So not everyone processes trauma in the same way. Something that works for you may not work for others. So for a lot of people, they want to get back to work very soon or keep busy or do things so that their mind is busy instead of just thinking about the hurt over and over again, because that's overloading. Neurons that fire, they fire, especially emotional and trauma and difficult emotions, they fire very strongly. They release all kinds of neurotransmitters into our body and hormones that can make us feel very overwhelmed. So sometimes it's good to keep a distraction so that you're not overwhelmed in the moment.
Come on out, kid.
You guys are gonna laugh.
No one is gonna laugh.
Now, but the other part of it, after you've gone through a traumatic situation, is that your brain is often so overloaded with dealing with that because it's running in the background all the time that it's using up some of your bandwidth. So not the time to make really big, dangerous decisions, big purchases, getting rid of things, buying things, because you're not thinking as clearly. You're not using as much of your processing because some of your brain is processing through the trauma. So I would say that you shouldn't be doing anything that's going to overload your processing system, something that's very difficult, very emotional, because when you're already exceptionally emotional, your cup's already quite full. So I wouldn't say to do anything that's exceptionally difficult outside of your skill range, something that's new, or in this case, something that's really quite dangerous. For some people, they become kind of numbed after that. And so sometimes they might say yes to things that they wouldn't naturally say, or may not be able to make those quick jerk decisions as effectively as they could beforehand.
Calm check-ins every 2 minutes. Just say something, okay? Anything.
Copy.
In Web Weaver's voice.
Copy, dog. I'm fine. All right, trust me.
And that's a really hard decision for the people that are supporting you, because you want to give the respect that someone understands what they can do and what they can't do. But also, you're not processing things as effectively when you're going through trauma. A lot of times we're numbed. We don't feel anything. And so sometimes we think that we're going to be okay because it's often easier to just do what you usually do because you don't have to think. And a lot of times when you've gone through a lot of trauma, you don't know that you're in too deep until after you're in it too deep. And for some people, dealing with trauma seems like dealing with weakness. To say that I can't handle something, that this isn't okay, makes some people feel like that is weak. It's not weak. That's being human. That's caring. That's having things that matter. But for a lot of people, their archetype is that they should be invulnerable. They should be like stone. And that's not true. And often then they feel even worse when they feel that way, having to admit that they are not indestructible because part of their ego needed to believe that. And it's not healthy to put up a stone wall in most cases. Sometimes we need to in order to survive. And a lot of people that have that archetype needed that to survive when they were young. And now it becomes, in a lot of situations, maladaptive. In order to form intimate, lasting relationships, you have to let down your guard, let people in, show the things and parts of you that are intimate, that are sensitive to you, that are vulnerable. And vulnerability is not weakness. Really, it's a strength and a gift that you give to others that you trust.
It's your favorite. German chocolate. Go. Okay. Okay.
And also, certain personality types have a strong feeling of obligation to others, don't want to let others down, especially when you're not sure that people really believe in you. You feel like you have to prove something. You don't want to disappoint others. And so because of that, people could use coercion in order to have you do things even if you don't want to. It's hard for you or difficult for you to be able to say no or change your mind. That makes you feel exceptionally guilty. And so in these difficult positions where for Hughie, he already is not processing really well, he has an entire team leaning on him and he said that he could do this, I think that that adds the pressure of him having to follow through no matter what type of situations are brought before him, and to pretend like he's okay, even if in his mind he's like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I've gone in too far. So for anyone, this might be a difficult video for you to watch. We will be discussing abuse and people being restrained and going through abusive situations. So if this is too difficult for you, you might want to just listen to the audio, not look at the screen. So I do want everyone to know to watch at your own risk, and if you're going through anything or dealing with severe trauma, we'll also have links in the description below if you need. I think that our culture also does not take male sexual abuse or abuse in general as seriously as it does to women. I think that a lot of times it's seen as that's okay, or they're lucky, or they must enjoy it, or that is okay to laugh at in a greater amount than they would to it being a woman. That's the reason why many men do not come forward with being physically, emotionally, financially, sexually abused, because they're worried about being looked at as, judged as that's being weak, or what's wrong with them, or why couldn't they do something, or why couldn't they overpower someone because they're bigger or stronger than someone else. I think that it's really damaging to men that have been through abuse or people that are seen as big and tough. And I think that for a lot of people, it's already such a judged situation where the first thing is, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? And those why questions are so very damaging, because it doesn't matter if you are naked lying down in the street unconscious, no one has a right to touch you or hurt you. It's not your fault. One is, it can happen to anyone, and two, no one has a right to take advantage of you. And so for Ashley and Tech Knight, they thought that this was someone that is consenting and wants this. And you could see Ashley looking and going like, oh, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. Maybe he doesn't actually want this, until Tech Knight kind of reiterates that. So from their understanding, this was consenting. And we already know that they had already had a discussion about the things that he liked, the things that he didn't like, and to be able to have a safe word. So this situation, it's not someone that's being abused, it's someone that is in a situation that, from everyone's understanding except for Hughie's, that they have consented and chosen to do this. Now, consent can always be withdrawn at any point and time. And I think that that's the defense, that, oh, this is just him being tickled, it's not a big deal, he didn't know. For people that have gone through abuse or trauma or aggression, to be able to even see someone tied down without the want, that loss of control, can be really traumatic. If you or someone that you know has been through abuse, to say that, oh, they shouldn't feel traumatized from this situation or watching it, is really very hurtful and quite callous. It is not about the severity of a situation that means that it's traumatized someone or not. It depends on what they've been through and who they are as a person. You might have gone through something that everyone else would say is very traumatic and it doesn't affect you at all, or something that seems like a small situation and it bothers you greatly. It's really dependent upon the person. So you want to be sensitive when someone else shares that something bothers them or doesn't, and pay heed to that.
Spiderweb! What?
And the reflection is, for a lot of people, they're in the position of knowing that he doesn't want to be there, that he's restrained, he doesn't know the safe word, his life is in danger. And so they're reliving that trauma of that lack of control. That feeling of not being in full control of their situation can cause a lot of anxiety and panic. Even for small things. I've had people that have had anxiety attacks because they can't even get a ring off of their finger. That feeling of not being able to have that little control. Even if you don't see that as traumatic, it doesn't mean that someone else doesn't.
Oh, sorry. I just like to shout stuff out while I'm being tickled. I'm so right now.
Does that mean that you're a horrible person if you find humor where someone else doesn't? No, everyone has humor in different situations depending on their own feelings of what is humor. And for some people that may find this traumatic, may also find humor in it. For a lot of people, that's how they actually express trauma and get it out. And I think that that becomes really difficult for other people to understand, that the way that you process it seems disrespectful for someone else. You might want to celebrate someone's birthday party at the gravesite and you're laughing and dancing, and someone else thinks that you should be mourning and sad. I think that it's unfair to gatekeep the way other people deal with their emotions. Does that mean that I think that scenes like this shouldn't ever be seen or shown? I think that we need to have these discussions about abuse and consent, and to be able to talk about it, and through different forms of media. I think that if we just hide it away, it doesn't get rid of the problem, but we don't have those discussions. I think that you also need to be aware of the things that you can and cannot handle. And I think that that's okay as well. I don't think that just because one person feels that this is an important issue, that everyone should watch it, because only you know how much you can absorb. It is fine to say no to certain things and not watch them or not deal with them. But I think that covering it under the rug and pretending like it doesn't happen does not do any service, because then we can pretend like no one goes through this. And I feel that media can open doors so that we can have these kind of really difficult discussions. You can let me know your thoughts. And this part, Hughie is being restrained. He knows that he's actually in danger. He doesn't know what could happen to him. He is not consenting. He has no control over this situation. That feeling of being completely powerless and under someone else's control, the unknown in any situation can cause people massive amounts of anxiety, but the unknown along with danger can have a lasting effect and actually change the way that you process information for an exceptionally long time. Probably in almost every case, you should have a professional that helps you work through this, because it can be so difficult and so damaging to yourself and to everyone else around you. No one really knows, we're not taught how to help someone properly to be able to process it and feel safe.
Oh, I've dreamt of having you down here to humiliate Starlight.
You've been secretly meeting with Sage.
And you see Hughie, you can tell that he's completely overloaded. He's without emotion. He's going through what we often call shock. It's that overload to the system when you are trying to process things that are too great for you to even have to process.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also really interesting that for Hughie, even watching someone else, someone that has hurt him, go through the trauma, just re-traumatizes him, does not make him feel better, is not something that he wants. He feels what that feels like. And that also can happen, that watching someone else, hearing something, anything that reminds you of that situation can rebring back that trauma. For some people, they just completely shut down. They're not really able to process anything. And sometimes you can actually block out any of these memories and not even remember what happened. When our brain becomes overloaded, it often will protect us by not bringing to long-term memory fully all the situations that happened, because the trauma is too great.
Oh, yeah.
How do you torture a masochist?
But that doesn't mean that your brain is not processing. For some people, when they go through trauma or shock, they're still able to make really good decisions. For some people, during trauma or an anxiety situation or the after effects, they can actually think or process more quickly or more accurately because they've been able to push everything else away. And I think that he was able to assess this situation really accurately.
Do you think Vicky knows about the internment camps? I knew she was bad. I just did not know how bad.
You can tell, and I think that the actor does a really good job of that. You're drowning in your head, like there's other things that are happening, but you're not really able to listen to them because in your head, you're like, I can't believe that this happened to me. And often our brain allows us to just process little pieces. It doesn't often happen right after the effect. Sometimes we can be hit of the severity of what we've gone through weeks, months, even years after that effect when it kind of all comes to us for whatever reason.
Ashley, well, she tickled my feet. She said so many horrible things.
To be able to share that with someone else means that you really trust them. I think that it's hard when someone shares something that's very heavy or severe to them. How do you handle that? How are you able to be there and comfort them? Especially when you can't actually make it better. And a lot of times people don't want you to make it better. They just want you to be there, to listen, to comfort, and to be able to comfort them in the way that they feel comfortable. And if you're not sure, you can just ask. No one expects you to be psychic.
My God. Hughie, what else did she do to you?
I'm not fine. I'm really not fine. I miss him, Annie. I miss my dad.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I'm so sorry.
I love that he was able to say that he's not fine. That's such a statement of strength to be able to know when you need, to be able to reach out, to trust yourself, to trust your ego, to trust the people around you. It's so difficult to do that, to reach out for help, to be able to ask, and to be able to recognize it in yourself. I hope that other people that watch this episode might also be able to take those steps to be able to get themselves the help that they need as well. Hughie could have said, well, being tied up and almost stabbed by Ted Knight was so traumatic. I scared. My life was in danger. I actually really appreciate that he didn't, that he said something that was what many people that are mainstream would seem like a smaller situation.
Well, she tickled my feet. She said so many horrible things.
I think that that lets people know that, you know what, even if someone else says, well, you weren't actually A, B, or C happened to you, you shouldn't care about it, that's not that big of a deal, suck it up. People get groped or touched or called slurs or horrible names on the street. That shouldn't bother you. It gives a little bit more of lowering the barometer of what is okay or not okay to share that hurts you or bothers you. And I think that that's really important.
I'm so sorry. It's okay. I'm so sorry.
And I think that Starlight did a really good job of just saying that she's sorry and holding him and being there for him. I think that the it's okay, it's not okay, I don't think that she meant it's okay what happened to you. I do think that she meant it's okay you sharing it. It's okay that you're not okay. And that's true. And it's so precious to be able to have someone that you can feel safe with and be with when you're going through something like this. So if you or someone that you love has gone through trauma, it's important to be able to go through the steps, educate yourself about the way that someone else wants to handle it or doesn't, and listen to that. I think that if someone says that they need space and then to encroach upon that can also feel like a violation of their own autonomy, and that's really important. I think that that's also why it's really great to go into support groups, not just for the people that have been traumatized, but also for the people that are trying to help, support, or be around someone that's gone through some severe trauma, because it's not something something that were taught in schools. Plus, you want to be able to have techniques and know what you can do to decompress from trauma. That could be humor, that could be sports, it could be reading, it could be listening to music, it could be talking, going outside in nature. Like, everyone has a different way, but you don't want to deal with trauma in greater chunks than what you feel comfortable with. And if you decide to go see a therapist, you want to share that as well. When you feel overloaded or that something might be too much, have that conversation and say, you know what, can we tone it down a little bit or talk about something funny or have this to decompress. A therapist will actually help you go through different ways to be able to process and then decompress from trauma so that you can feel better and then deal with it in pieces and sections that you want. The other last piece, I think that the hardest thing with trauma is our own feeling of shame or guilt or questions of what we did and how we handled something ourselves. The way that we dealt with it. So often it comes with a lot of guilt and shame and judgment. And that's the really nefarious thing of being abused, is we often put it towards ourselves. I shouldn't have worn this. I shouldn't have walked there. I shouldn't have gone here. Why didn't I move? Why didn't I say something more? I think that that's so damaging. So you want to go through that kind of negative self-talk, those kind of shameful situations, that victim blaming that, yes, sometimes society does to us, but also sometimes we do to ourselves. And that is what is so very damaging even after the trauma. We're often re-traumatizing ourselves. And that's why I think that doing this with someone that is professional and understands how to handle this can be so beneficial, so we can get rid of that so you can breathe more freely. So, is abuse ever funny? No, it's not funny. But the way that people deal with abuse or abusive situations is multi-layered. For some of them, they may deal with it through humor, dark humor, even really difficult things. For other people, it might be music. For other people, it might be anger. The way that we process complex situations is multi-layered. And so I don't think that we should gatekeep or think that someone is a horrible person because they deal with it in a different way than we do. Us as a culture, we need to be much more open to hearing and allowing people that space to be able to talk and share their own journey and how they went through it. So that was a really heavy subject. You can let me know your thoughts about it and this episode in the comments below. But I want to share that if you're dealing with your own anxiety, I have a class on anxiety on Nebula. It is about what is anxiety, how to deal with negative self-talk, and I go through different tips and techniques that can help you process it. So I think that you might want to check it out. For this time, I'm going to let you know they also have videos that are originals. So I got to very excitedly be a part in a reality show called The Getaway. It's only on Nebula. And this is a social strategy game where you compete with others, where you get to see if you are one of the last creators standing. And they had other great Nebula creators like Foreign Man in a Foreign Land, Matt Kroll, Dan Toomey, Patch from Tirzu, Stephen Bridges, where we all competed, had fun together. And if you want to watch and support, you can only get that through Nebula. And I have to just say, it was amazingly fun. It's all ad-free, it's all sponsor-free. You can sign up with my exclusive link where you can get 40% off. That's $250 a month, $30 a year, and the show really is worth it. And yes, I will be doing a reaction also to the show on my channel. And if you enjoyed this video, I also have videos on Arcane, Wednesday, The Boys, Last of Us, and they're all ad-free, sponsor-free, and that's the whole purpose of Nebula. It's a place where you can get high-quality videos. And it's not just my videos, there's tons of other amazing creators. All early access, all extended versions, all kinds of courses and originals like The Getaway from the creators of Jetlag. They truly are amazing. Wonderful team. We're fabulous. And all other wonderful things from Nebula creators just by clicking on the link below. So thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.